It's a big season for Barcelona. Some big summer transfer business, of course. Anthony Gordon and Karim Adeyemi joining. Ansu Fati, Iñaki Peña leaving the club. There's also Marcus Rashford, whose loan is done. Looks like he will not be back in Barcelona. And this is a big season for Barcelona because they're trying to defend their La Liga title. They're trying to compete in the Champions League. All the while, their rivals in Madrid are making a lot of additions to their squad. A brand new manager in Jose Mourinho. So they'll have that to compete with this season. To break it all down, let's bring in our Spanish football expert, Phil Kitromilides. Phil, thanks for joining us here, my man. Talk to me a little bit about what Barcelona, what their summer has been, and what we can expect for them the rest of the summer in their transfer business. Are they done? Are they content with the squad that they have?
They're absolutely not done, no. But I think it's interesting, Stefano, the way you framed that at the beginning, and it's important, actually, and it might be a little bit tiresome, but we do kind of have to frame everything from a Barcelona perspective with the Real Madrid perspective as well, you know, because these two teams, the nature of this rivalry, it's not just what you've done, it's what your rivals have done as well. So as we've said, Real Madrid have been very busy, big overhaul there, looking to add more players to their squad. And Barcelona haven't done quite as much, but let's be frank here, they haven't needed to do quite as much because they've absolutely dominated La Liga for the last couple of seasons. It's funny because these two sides have signed players, and yet both of them haven't signed a player in the one position where it's glaringly obvious that they need to sign someone. Obviously, Real Madrid with that holding midfielder position, and Barcelona with the central striker. And Robert Lewandowski has gone. That is dozens and dozens and dozens of goals a season gone. And they haven't found someone else yet. Now, they do have a World Cup winning striker on their books in Ferran Torres, but his contract is up in a year. So the idea of the club is that they want to renew Ferran, but does Ferran want to play second fiddle to whoever they bring in to replace Robert Lewandowski? So that is a big bit of business, signing someone and sorting out what they're going to do with Ferran Torres. Huge bits of business for Barcelona, which haven't yet been done. And then if you look at the two bits of business that they have done, I think it's very interesting that they decided to bring in those two profiles of wingers, wingers that clearly Hansi Flick wanted, specific kinds of wingers, very, very fast, very direct, but also hard-working as well. Yeah, it's there's still quite a lot to be done, I think, in this transfer window for Barcelona. So far, so good. There has to be some outgoings as well, because they have to bring in some money. I think Marc Casado is quite possibly on his way out, and they'll try and get as much money as possible for him, although Frankie de Jong's injury might hinder that bit of business. But yeah, some money has to come in, some more money has to come in, because they're going to be spending more in the summer.
Phil, it's good to see you. This is the summer of Phil Kitromilides, folks. The World Cup winners, Spain, they have their celebrations. Phil, where are you calling in from, first and foremost?
I'm not in Spain.
Okay.
I'm in Greece. I'm in Greece. I'm on holiday in Greece.
Greece looks so good on you. It looks so good on you, Phil.
I was trying to let him go under the radar so no one knew where he was on holiday, but Michael Hood had to out you, my man. I'm sorry about that, Phil.
I wish I would say that is my question, but time is money. I know we are company men. So let me ask you this, Phil. Looking at the World Cup for Barcelona, Barcelona had 16 players participating at this summer's World Cup, 8 of them on Luis de la Fuente's World Cup winning squad. You previewed this when we talked about the tournament as a whole, but for a Barcelona perspective, how does having so many players playing in a World Cup, being part of a World Cup, how might that impact their start to another season?
Possibly. I mean, if we take a closer look at some of those players and how many minutes they played in the World Cup and their involvement, I mean, Joan Garcia didn't play at all. Eric Garcia barely played. Pedri actually played fewer minutes than we thought he was going to play. Lamine played fewer minutes than he would have done if he was fully fit. Ferran Torres was a substitute. It's Rafinha got injured and didn't actually play that much. It's true, Pau Cubarsí played every minute. Jules Koundé played a lot of minutes as well. So there are players that have had a lot of minutes in their legs, but I think it's possibly not quite as big a deal as we might think it is. That said, obviously pre-season is extremely important. You know, Mike, what it's like being a professional pre-season, you know, when you get that fitness really sort of stuck into you for the rest of the season. But think about PSG last season, who got to the final of the Club World Cup. A week later, their season started with the UEFA Super Cup, which they won, and then they won everything else as well. So you have to have a very deep squad, which is why I think the signings of the wingers were very important for Hansi Flick, trying to add depth to the attacking line. But I don't think it's going to be as big a problem as we might think it could have been if we, look at the headline figure, 16 players at the World Cup. They're going to be knackered. They possibly might not be as exhausted as we might think they are.
I think the big question surrounds Lamine Yamal, and you mentioned him, right? Where obviously wasn't 100% fit during the World Cup. Didn't matter. Proves just how good the Spanish side was. Didn't need their superstar to be a superstar to win the World Cup. That being said, going to get obviously a late start to preseason. Is he going to have enough time to get fully fit, or will Barcelona have to kind of string him along slowly but surely as the season progresses to get him at his to get him fully fit? I tend to look at this as maybe a result of what we've seen for Lamine Yamal over his entire career at this point, where he's just played so many games at such a young age. Is Barcelona looking at it that way, or are they looking at it as let's just bring him along slowly but surely to get this season started?
Listen, I think the signing of Karim Adeyemi definitely gives us an idea that there is now serious and, class, good, high-quality backup for Lamine Yamal. No one's Lamine. No one can replace Lamine, but they've now got someone who is proven at a pretty decent level to be able to come in. Lamine Yamal played, we're looking at his World Cup numbers here. During the season last year, whenever he was fit, he played a ridiculous number of minutes. I was looking at the games that he played in the Copa del Rey. He played every minute in the Copa del Rey, including the first round against Guadalajara, the second round against Racing Santander, the third round against Albacete, every single minute of those games. Generally, when he's been fit, he's played every single minute. Hansi Flick hasn't liked to rest him. He hasn't wanted to be rested. But I think maybe the signing of Karim Adeyemi gives us an idea as to how Barcelona are approaching this season, because they need to have everybody fit, firing on full cylinders when it comes to the business end of the season, because the Champions League is the ultimate goal. And when it came to the Champions League last season in the quarterfinals against Atletico Madrid, they fell apart, and they can't afford to have people who aren't 100%. I'm not pointing out Lamine here. I'm just saying as a general overview. But Lamine will have to possibly won't like it, not playing every single minute of every single game. But now Hansi Flick has to manage that, and I think that's going to be very, very important. Particularly, with him coming back from this injury, this muscular injury, which he'd never had before. He'd literally never had this muscular injury before. He'd never really known how to manage it within himself as well. So important. He gets a break over the summer, gets some pre-season, and comes back fully 100% fit, but also mentally aware of the fact that you need to be 100% at the end of the season. And I think Hansi Flick will have that sort of message drummed into him and say, I might need to rest you a little bit here so you're 100% when we really, really need you at the end.
Phil, before you get back into just that Crete sun that you're in, or maybe it's nighttime over there, so the Crete moon, I want to ask you this, because the Champions League is Barcelona. That is the one trophy they covet under Hansi Flick. Given the options of the squad right now, what are their chances going into this next season for the Champions League?
They will be among the favourites, obviously, semi-finalists 2 years ago, where they were very, very close to getting to the final. Last season was a surprise and a disappointment to go out in the quarterfinals to Atletico Madrid. But if we look at this squad, we look at this team, we look at the idea that they have under Hansi Flick, how they've evolved, how they've become a better team since he's been there. I think, they're one of the 4 best teams in Europe. They have to go out and show that, though. And it's been very clear for Hansi Flick that the Champions League is the #1 goal. He's come out and literally said, the Champions League is the most important trophy for us. So we don't even need to read between the lines there. We know what his major goal is. And like I said, going back to some of the signings, I think the signings and the squad management will be made with that goal to win the Champions League, to be in the right frame of mind, to be in the right physical sensation and disposition when the latter stages of the Champions League come around. So it is the #1 goal for them. They are definitely going to be candidates. They need to sign a striker, though, I think, and it wouldn't hurt to get another centre-back in as well. So like we said, going back to the first question you asked about the transfer window, there is still lots of work for them to do to be a complete squad, but they're still going to be one of the favourites for the Champions League. Absolutely no doubt about that.
Are Atletico going to let Julian Alvarez go?
That's the question. I don't think so. I genuinely don't think so. And I think, you know, the chances of him joining Barcelona are increasingly diminishing by the day. Joan Laporta said, you know, our offer doesn't last forever. It runs out sort of end of July, beginning of August, where we're into that period now. You know, the last week of July, August is going to start soon, and their offer will run out. I cannot see Atletico Madrid selling him to Barcelona. I don't think Barcelona are going to offer something absolutely ridiculous like 200 million. They're definitely not going to do that. So he's not going to move to Barcelona. Is he going to stay, or is he going to go to the Premier League? That's the question. But Atletico Madrid are very, very keen on keeping him.
Especially after those social media posts Atletico put out right before the World Cup final. Julian Alvarez had to deal with all that as well. Phil Kitromilides, get back to your holiday, my man. Enjoy.
Will do. Thank you.
Mike, just obviously, I think the chances, you mentioned the Champions League, their chances increase significantly if they're able to get that striker replacement for Robert Lewandowski, whoever that may be. Without that, I don't give them a grand chance to win multiple trophies in a season, especially not with what Real Madrid is doing now in La Liga.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting season coming up for Spanish football, and obviously we get to cover La Liga here on Scoreline, and with the UEFA Champions League coming back to the Golazo network, Paramount Plus, and everything under the CBS Sports umbrella. My big thing when it comes to Barcelona is this. La Masia is the way for Barcelona. There is a player that was not part of this World Cup this summer in Fermin Lopez. I think that Spain's loss with Fermin Lopez will be Barcelona's ultimate gain. He was sensational this past season, Stefano, and he has become a difference maker. When Lamine Yamal wasn't 100%, it was Fermin Lopez who was taking the mantle for Barcelona and said, hey, put this team on my young shoulders. Lewandowski's not scoring goals. I will get the goals and get the assists. Had a hand in 20 goals this past season, was exceptional in the Champions League, so keep an eye out on him. And I love that Phil talked about the injury to Frankie de Jong, because players like Marc Bernal, he says, Frankie de Jong, we can live without you. So La Masia for me, irregardless of the fact that if they miss out on Julian Alvarez, that is a blockbuster signing if you can get the 100 million euros plus to get that. But as long as you have academy products the way they do, you will always have hope. The big thing, though, you have to address the center back pairing with Pau Cubarsí. There is one player on planet Earth right now, Aymeric Laporte. Hansi Flick, you tune into Scoreline, you listen to me right now. Get Laporte, and you will get a hand on the Champions League trophy.